Hey, Pre-Cal 12, this is our podcast off of section 7.1a. So just as a heads up there, go ahead and check this out, and we'll be rocking. All right. All right, y'all feel okay on this so far? Y'all are good? So again, just as a reminder, I'd subtract y, right? And I get x is equal to 4 minus y. Substitute this in for x over here. And I'll use a kind of a different color here just so you can kind of see the difference. So 4 minus y goes in for this x. And then I'd subtract y and set that equal to 2. And then I combine like terms, right? Okay, so what would that equal here on this left?
4 minus 2
Equals 2. Good, yeah. And then what do I do to get y by itself? Subtract. Yeah, well, that's pretty simple, right? I mean, we've done this before. Subtract 4, we get negative 2y equals negative 2. Divide by negative 2, and y equals what then?
1.
Y equals 1. Good. Now, just as a reminder, how do I solve for x again?
Plug it back in.
Yeah, plug it back in. And once I plug it back in, we would get what?
3.
3 for x, right? And if you think, hey, Coach, how was that again? Remember, I could plug this y equals 1 back in for this to get 4 minus 1 equals 3, right? So x equals 3. So 3, 1. All right, I'll do this. I'll give 6 tickets. By the way, just as a heads up, we have 2 weeks left till tickets is done, okay? And that could even be less if my wife goes into labor there, okay?
Give a 30-second explanation on what you're going to do with tickets. I kind of like.
Yeah. So what's going to happen is at the end of the semester, the highest team will get something cool. But then individually, what will happen is, depending upon how many tickets you have, I'm going to give you a quiz grade at the end of the semester, okay? So your quiz grade could be anywhere from a 0 to a 100. And I'll give that to you. You'll see that on the grade book. But remember, tickets can't hurt you. What will happen then is I'm going to take away your lowest quiz grade. So it could be, if it's really good, it really technically replaces your lowest quiz grade.
Couldn't it hurt you?
Ow.
If you had a low quiz grade.
Or if you get a paper cut.
Quiz grade.
No, because then the tickets would be the one thrown out.
I know, but what if you needed a quiz? What if you already had a
What if I cut
quiz
myself with
and
Mhm.
you needed it thrown out? The quiz was
Like that hurt.
From
the
today,
tickets were lower.
good question.
If I choked on it.
From today, right? When I put in your quiz grade, like when I put in the ticket quiz grade, at that point, your grade currently, right now, where it's at, cannot decrease based upon the tickets. And if you want me to kind of explain it, basically the big thing is if you didn't ever participate, maybe you never turned in tickets or whatever, it's cool. It was never something that was required.
I get it. I got you now. I'm okay.
You follow me on that? So where you're at now, your grade cannot get. Cool. All right, so let's talk about this. What does 3, 1 mean in terms of this problem? So if you were to say,
It's like where they intersect, isn't it?
yeah, so if you were to think about like where they intersect, the point at which they intersect is 3, 1, right? So we call that the points of intersection or point of intersection, all right? Questions on that? All right, so here's the cool thing. This has a lot of relevance in your life. It really does. We actually call this in business, if you ever see supply and demand, we call it the point of equilibrium. It's the point where our supply and demand curve intersect. We'll look at that more on block day a little bit more. We'll have some fun with that too. Probably one of my favorite lessons will be block day in terms of how we apply it and how we use it. All right, so there's a lot of application within this. How many of you went Black Friday shopping?
Michael did.
Yes? Did y'all see any crazies? Were y'all crazy? No.
Somebody got shot. It's not even funny.
Oh no, I wasn't trying to make a jest of that.
I know. I'm playing with you.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm dead serious, but I was like.
You said I'm joking. I'm dead serious.
I'm just playing.
Contradiction.
No, crazies is.
I'm
You talking about
joking.
the Alabama Mall, right?
Yes, bro.
Yeah.
That was really messed up.
Oh man.
I don't think anybody died. Wait, what happened?
No, the dude died.
Yeah, no, he killed a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old.
He just shot up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. 13,
Oh man.
13-year-old.
All right, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I didn't mean that. You know my heart. You know I wasn't trying to. All right.
No, I know what you meant.
Okay.
I'm just
Mean
on
person.
Let's skip that. Supply and demand. When we look at supply and demand, Black Friday is a really good example of that. Is if you think about it, they do. Let me just keep my lane. Basically, what happens is that if you're trying to go and buy something that's on like a ridiculous sale, they only have so many to where it hopefully draws you in, right, at that specific price, and hopefully you buy more in that situation. Okay? There's actually another really big one. And one of my favorite things that I'm passionate about, other than like math, is what it means to, and it really relates, but how do you handle money, right? So question real quick before we go into this word problem to the right of where we're at here. Is interest a good or bad thing?
They're both.
Yeah, why do we say that?
Because it helps you and it can also take money away from you.
Yeah, so how could it help me?
I deposit stuff and it gains interest. And then when you fall back
So
out,
it's
you
like
get more.
invest in.
But like
Invest.
credit cards,
You give
it
somebody
gains
money.
interest also.
100%, right? So if you think about interest, it can work for you or against you, right? If you save it and allow someone to really borrow your money, what's going to happen is over the course of time, you're going to gain interest off that. Also, in the same way, if I go ahead and go into credit card debt, which, by the way, Black Friday, huge. I mean, like, huge credit card. It boosts the credit card companies. I mean, multi-billion-dollar industry. And this is crazy, too. We'll talk about this more as we keep going. What is the number one? The credit card companies try to go after one specific type of person. What age group are they trying to go after?
Middle 20.
College. You know what will happen, and you'll see this in the family center or whatever, where everyone hangs out. You'll see credit card companies paying colleges to go ahead and set up a booth, and they'll say, "Hey, Madeline, come over here and sign up for this credit card. You'll get a free shirt." And we as college students, because I was there too, free shirt. Oh my! Or I'll buy you I'll give you a $5 Chipotle gift card. That's the best thing in the world. And you'll go and do that, and then all of a sudden you're putting things on credit. And all of a sudden that $1,000 TV that you bought over the course of time, if you don't pay for that with cash, you're now paying 2, 3, sometimes even more times for that specific item. That's why debt is a really bad thing. And that's why also it's important for you to understand. Some of you won't ever deal with this because financially your parents have set you up for success, which praise the Lord for that, right? But I will say that that's why a lot of times people that are my age in their upper 20s and early 30s are literally bound to debt from college, and they're still trying to pay that off even today. And so I would say just stay away if you can. Stay away from debt. Big piece there. And go ahead and start investing now. Pretty big thing there. All right, so let's look at this. A total of $12,000 is invested into 2 funds. That's another good concept. If you've got good money, don't want to put it just in one place, right? You want to spread that sucker out. Okay. Total of $12,000 is invested in 2 funds that pays 9 and 11% simple interest. The yearly interest is $11.80 with both funds. How much is invested into each fund at each rate? All right. So question: How many funds do I have?
2.
Jay, you good with me? Oh, wrong. Oh yeah, wrong color. Probably different colors. Good. So we have how many accounts we have here?
Yes.
2, right? Numbers 1 and number 2. I don't know what goes in for each, so we're just going to put X and Y. All right? Someone help me out. What's an equation that I could do? Roll, you know?
Oh, no.
Does anyone know one equation that we could create from the information that's given up here?
0.09 plus 0.011 or 0.11
Equals?
equals 0 or equals
Equals 1100.
yeah.
1180. Okay, I like this. Problem is that this isn't true. Isn't that, I mean, does that make
You
sense?
need X and Y. You need X and Y.
Bingo,
Explain
yeah.
that.
So what does X and Y represent?
Like how much you're putting into each one.
How much I'm putting into each one. Does that make sense? By the way, how many of you are interested in business on some level, possibly? Okay, I'm telling you this right here is right along those same lines of what you're going to end up doing in the future. Okay, so if nothing else, this is just good stuff for you to know. So because of that, we need variables, right? The variables are X and Y, where X is the amount that I put into the first account, Y is the amount of money I put in my second account. Okay. All right, and I don't know that yet, but I will after the end of this problem. So this equals 1180. What does this mean? I'll give you 6 tickets if you know. Just raise your hand and tell me. What does that represent? Like in terms of the problem or like in the real life setting, what does that box mean? You know, Roll?
The increase of interest on the time that you put into that fund.
Bingo. It's the amount of interest gained on whatever I put into that specific fund. Great job, Roll. Yeah, so that's the amount of interest I gain. Does that make sense? Okay?
Shouldn't it be 1 point?
Oh, good question. That would be the total amount of money that I originally invested plus my interest.
Yeah.
But what did it say about the 1180? That is my
That is the interest.
total interest that I gained.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So then, but you could add 1180 to 1.09x plus 1.11.
I could, if you did this 1.09 and 1.11, this you could do that, but this would turn from 1180 to 12,000 plus 1180.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
You follow me? And if you didn't get what Jackson just said, that's okay.
Yeah.
This just represents the amount of total interest.
But then you could subtract that from 12,000 if you did it the other way, couldn't you? And you still end up with
And
1.
that would be what you
Say that again, Noah.
originally.
I just want to make sure you're right.
Well, if you did 1.09 plus 1.11, and then you got that plus 12,000, you could just subtract 12,000 from that, and you get 1180.
And
Yes,
then
that's
you'll
true.
still
I
get
see what you're
you'll
saying.
still get what you originally invested.
Correct. That's
I mean,
fine.
it's an extra step.
Yeah, it's an extra step, but I get where you're coming from. It's good. All right, so what's the second equation? We got 2 variables, therefore we have to have 2 equations, right? What's the second one? Y'all already did the hard one.
It's gonna equal 12,000.
Yes, that's good, Madeline. What's equal to 12,000 again, Madeline? X plus Y. Good. So remember, X plus Y is the total amount that I have equals 12,000. So now we've got 2 equations, right? All right, before I let you kind of go and finish this off, can someone help me in just saying, hey, how would I solve for what I invested in each, given these 2 equations that are here?
Is saying substitution or
Yeah, substitution, right? So I could just say and subtract Y, or I could do X2. Either one is fine. But then I would have X equals 12,000 minus Y. So what do I do with this?
Plug it in.
Plug it in, plug it in. Sponsored by Glade. Very good. And I would plug it in. Okay? Very good. If you don't know that commercial, look it up later. Okay? So plug it in. 12,000 minus Y, we plug in for X. And then what do I do with 0.09?
Distribute.
Distribute. Right now, go right ahead. Solve for X and solve for Y. Go right now. Here we go. See if you can solve for it in your groups. The first person that could show it to me, I'll get tickets.
Oh, shoot.
You're in your group.
Please.
Ah, the count is at home. Oh
non
no.
word.
Might have one back there. Jay, might have one back there.
Oh.
10% was 1,200. So 0.09.
I just wrote the most perfect zero.
Congratulations. This is good stuff for you.
It is.
Good stuff. Do you get how you would attack it now?
Wait, so we have X equals 12,000 minus Y.
Mhm.
Did you distribute? It's like 11.
I'm just coming over here to show you.
So what do you do?
So this is, do you get how I got both equations
No,
before I get into how to solve it?
Did
Did you get how I took
Is that
these
like the
words?
9% and 11%?
Yeah, so 9% of my initial investment, right? If I've got 2 investments, investment 1 and investment 2, right?
Right. Right.
and I put a certain amount in here, a certain amount in here. I take 0.09 and multiply by how much ever I put into this first account. That equals the interest from this first. Does that make sense? This box here, 0.09 times that initial investment, that's the interest earned on that first account. Over here on the Y, we do the same thing, except this has different interest, right?
Right.
This is 11%. So that's why you see the 0.11 times Y. So this represents the interest, 0.11 times whatever I invested in there, is the amount of interest over here, and then I added it together, right?
Right.
And that total,
1,180.
perfect, that's the amount of interest for both accounts.
Okay. Yeah.
Follow me? The X plus Y equals 12,000, that should make sense, because that's the amount that I'm investing in total,
Total. Okay.
right? So then, once I get this here, I get X by itself or Y by itself,
Right.
and I get this. But remember, I'm using this second equation. So just like I did earlier, I'm putting 12,000 minus Y in for the X that's here to get 0.09 times 12,000 minus Y plus 0.11Y equals 1180.
Okay.
Right? So I'm just substituting it in. And then at that point, then I can distribute 0.09 into each in the next cube and go from there.
Well, that's gonna get me.
Cool? Does that help you?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I got it. I think I got it.
You got it there, no? Y'all, what do y'all think?
So you just set it up like that and you distribute.
Distribute and solve for Y, and then I would then solve for
That was
what does Y represent?
What's that fun though?
Oh, it's
Remember in total, right? How much money do I have? I have 12,000 total, right? So in total, I put my money, 12,000. I put it into two separate accounts, right? So I either put it into account X or I put it into account Y. Does that make sense? So this is the total amount of money I put into each. Now for the second equation, right? So when I say what does Y mean? Y means the amount of money I put into the second
What do
account.
you bring it on?
Okay. Now when I multiply this by its interest rate, 0.09, this represents the interest gain from what I put in here. This is the amount of money I gain, right?
Yeah.
And 0.11 is what I gain on the second account. The total amount of interest that I gain over the year would be
1100.
You have to carry
Or 1,000.
good. So from saving this in specific accounts, when I invest it, this is the amount of money that I would gain after that 1 year. And so that's how I would get the two
But
equations.
you got Y.
And then I would just solve it like I would the previous one. Does that help you?
Yes.
Are you serious now?
All right. Hey, what y'all get when you distribute 0.09?
108.
1,000.
No.
Yeah.
1,080?
Yeah, 1,080.
No, I got a 108.
And
That
then
should be right, Jackson.
Thank you.
I
wait,
think.
let me do it again.
I'm doing it without.
Do it one more time.
I got
Point
1,080.
0.09
that's
times
right, that's
1,200.
12,000.
100. You're doing 0.9.
0.09 times 12,000.
And then you get 0.02.
And then over
Oh
here,
wait, 12,000.
Yeah.
this is 0.02.
God, numbers. Numbers. Alright.
I'll tell you what, you shortchange me, I'm gonna be a tick. I'm gonna be ticked.
Yeah, I just shortchanged by $900.
All right, so we got 0.02
I got Y
equals 100. Divide by 0.02, I got Y equals 5,000. I heard you.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
got
good.
93.
I don't know. I did it mostly.
All right, so Harrison, you ready for this? What does Y equals 5,000 actually mean in the context of this problem?
It's like. Is it the total investment?
Total investment to what? Well, how much did I invest into account Y?
5,000.
5,000. Very good. So what did I invest into the first account?
12,000.
So 12,000 was my total, right?
Right.
Because X plus Y equals 12,000. So these are my two accounts. So X would be equal to,
Did you say
Oh, 7,000.
great job, good.
I'm dumb.
So when I say, all right, stay with me now, just in case people are struggling. Remember, X and Y represent the two different accounts. You follow me?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I love the fact that we can solve a math problem like this, and that's good. I don't think this is, with some practice, I think we'll be fine. However, if you don't actually understand what we're solving for, then when you go to the business and you go to those classes, that's when people struggle. The context of it, right? What does it mean? It means that I'm investing $5,000 into account Y, $7,000 into account X, right? Does that make sense? How much total money would I have after that year?
13,080.
1,300 or 13,080. Yeah, exactly. And that's how we would attack that. Okay. Questions? Questions? Okay, here we go. Let's go to the next one. Really quick, I want to talk about this. Go to your first page on your homework. As I talk through this next one, feel free to kind of start the homework process. I would say first just give me this little bit, and that way you can understand it, okay? Look at the pictures on numbers 1, 2, and 3 associated to those systems of equations, okay? How many solutions would number 1 have? 1. Good, Jackson. Okay? Now look at number 2. Is everyone there just so you can kind of see it? How many solutions would number 2 have? 2, because there's 2 points of intersection. Nice. And then obviously number 3, how many would you have? 2. You would have 2 solutions. Good, Jackson. Okay, so here's the question I have. Over here, on the bottom left-hand side over here, negative x plus y equals 4, and x squared plus y equals 3. First of all, what type of shape would this first one be? A linear line, right? Okay? I'm going to put that in. What would the second one be? A parabola, right? Okay? So question. I'll give you 8 tickets if you can tell me what the solution possibilities are for a line and parabola and why. Jay.
2.
4.
2 or 1.
Or
0.
why?
Because we can get 2 lines, one of them or another.
Could you show me on the board, just through a picture?
You draw like 3 examples.
Yeah, you can do that.
What do you want me to just draw on the skyscrapers?
Yeah, drive right over here. That's cool.
What do they call it?
Cool.
So it could be like that.
Which has how many solutions there?
That's 2. That's 1, and then it could be like.
That's 2.
Oh snap! Alright. So 0.
Yep.
1 and 2.
That's actually, that would work. That would work right there. Nicely done. You see how it could be 2, 0, or 1? Right? Nice job, man. Good work. All right, so the question is what is it, okay? What is it? And we could actually test it just like we did earlier, okay? So with this being said, here's what I would do. Attack it like you would on the other ones. It's just a little bit different. So what would you isolate maybe on the top? You could isolate X. You could also isolate Y, right? Either one is appropriate. I'm going to do Y because it's already positive. So I'm going to add X to both sides, okay? And by the way, if you're wanting to maybe practice one of these, you could also go to number 4. 4 is very similar to the one I'm doing right now, okay? So if I add X to both sides, I get Y is equal to 4 plus X, okay? All right, so we've got to isolate it. So what do I do with 4 plus X? Plug and chug. Get on the train, right? Plugging and chugging. All right. Plug it in for Y. What do we get now?
X squared.
Mm-hmm. So this second one I'm putting back up here. X squared plus equals 3. Nice. Okay. You good, Jay? Oh, I thought you were talking to me. I was like, what the heck are you doing? I think I'm a math teacher, so just... So what do I do now to then solve for X? What would I do? This becomes a little different. I see an x, I see an x squared. There's something in my head that should go off. Roll, what was it?
It's a trinomial.
Okay.
Oh!
Which
Wow,
means?
That's going there.
Couldn't you flip x and 4 and then try to figure out, what are those things called? Zeros.
Yes.
And then once you have x minus or x plus, you can solve for x factor.
Bingo.
And those are
That's what it is.
Wait, what?
That's exactly right. So what he's
No,
saying,
I think, no, I don't mean I understand what he said.
we got to get everything to one side, right? So let's subtract 3. Get this equal to 0.
You know, right there.
And what we would have is x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. Okay? Y'all see that? So x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. Now what I will say is this. Once I do this, I have a couple possibilities. The first thing I do is factor. If I can factor, let's do it. So what two numbers when multiplied get me 1, but when added, get me 1?
1 and 1.
Yeah, there's nothing, right? Because that would add to 2.
Oh,
So I would say factoring's a no-go. So now we've got to go to something just a little different. I go to factoring, and then I go to the, say it again, Madeline? The quadratic formula, right?
No.
The secret formula.
Oh, yes. And everybody now, here we go. Ready? X equals negative b. Oh, hold up, my bad. Actually, you're wrong. That's great. Do it again. X equals negative b plus or minus the square. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Nice, and that's how we attack it. Okay?
I got
They
taught
work
differently
differently.
by the song.
Should be choir.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
It's just doesn't go.
Really?
That
It
song?
doesn't go.
I remember that.
We could drop a beat. X equals. Yeah, you would do it. Yeah, see? I felt it.
That's on a podcast.
No.
Yeah, this is on the podcast right now. This is. All right, so b is obviously 1, right? We're just plugging it in, okay? All right, we got -1. I'm guessing we know how to do the quadratic, right? Okay. All right, so we plug -1 in for b, plus or minus the square root. B squared would be 1 minus 4. What's a times c? 1. And all over 2 times, what's a? 1. Now, here's what I would say, okay? Once I've attacked this, notice what's inside this square root. 1, well, 4 times 1 is 4. 1 minus 4 is, okay? If this is negative, so this equals -3 here, what would happen with a negative inside of a square root? An I, okay? Good job. Yeah, I heard a bunch of you say that. Since it is an I, how many solutions would I have?
1.
Yeah.
I don't know.
None. Can't. Imaginary solution would have 0 solutions. And so because of that, like Che had brought up, we would have no solutions that are on there. Okay? Che, you with me on that? Okay. So we would have no solutions there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you could actually solve it without it being imaginary, plug it in and get a decimal out and go ahead and attack it that way. Okay?
Why? Can you graph that and show us why it's?
It's a good question. I actually could not graph it because it's imaginary. So if I have imaginary solutions, that means I have no solutions. Okay? Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so let's go to, hold up, where was I? Oh yeah, go to number 2. Go to number 2 real quick.
You number one?
We got about 6 minutes left.
This has been the longest.
Number 2 is one, I want you to isolate one real quick, and then go ahead and plug in, okay? Go ahead to number 2, we've got like 5 minutes left. Go ahead and get that homework one done, and once I've done 2, go ahead, you can go back to number 1 if need be, but 2's a good one I wanted to help you all on, okay? Go right ahead.
Did you want to hear a cool story?
Let's see.
I thought that was story.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Jackson's mom and my cousin used to carpool to school together.
Really?
I gotta ask
Yeah.
my mom about that. He told me. I gotta ask
How
her.
do you know these things?
Because I went to Thanksgiving.
What if, and you guys, what?
And
How
my
did-
cousin saw pictures of me at football and saw pictures of him because my cousin follows his mom on Facebook, and they went to school together. Michael.
Say it.
Your mom went to GC. Actually, your mom went to GC.
No.
They went to a different school.
They went to. She went to an all-girls school in Savannah.
So how did they carpool?
She did.
You said she went to.
How'd they carpool?
Yeah, isn't that all girls?
I don't think so.
All right, let's keep going. Let's keep
Wait,
going.
how'd they carpool? How'd they,
In like middle school. They went. I think they went to different high
They
schools.
put on the same.
they remember that?
They went to high school really close to each
I
other.
don't
According to
remember
this guy.
middle school.
Ask your mom.
I will.
Michael Boone.
I will.
You sure? Do I remember anything from middle
What
school?
if he's just making all this up? Oh, I know. So crazy.
Hey, just as a heads up, again, you're gonna isolate that top one and then plug it in. Okay.
Oh, she does.
Isolate the top and then plug that bad boy in. I think when you plug it in, that was what the other class was struggling with a little bit.
Did you move the Y over?
Yeah.
Move the X over? How would you do the same thing?
I'm just not
Oh, wow.
Gosh, why are we here today?
Oh, wow.
Okay, girl.
That's special.
Was roll okay today?
I don't want to be here. I really
Okay.
don't. I hate school.
I don't mind being here today.
What?
Because
I missed y'all.
I don't mind being here today. Like, it's the first day back.
I just like.
Oh, I can be here.
Me too. I love it.
Thanksgiving
I like being
awesome.
Yeah, I'm
Since I do choose to be here.
ready to
I
be.
semi-choose the losses was
2023.
Roll's gonna be a football coach and history teacher someday. So,
absolutely not.
I can see it.
I could see it.
Coach Kendall.
Remember this moment.
I can see Joe.
When is 20?
No, you did.
I can definitely see
No,
No, it's not Joe. I can never see
every football coach in the South.
How we doing on
besides
this?
Phil Hardy is the history
Literally.
So here's what I would do on this one. I know you're trying to isolate this one here. It makes it much easier if you were to isolate the top one. You see that? Because it doesn't have a squared in it, and it makes it just would make it easier if you just said, okay, y is equal to negative 5 plus 2x.
Dude, they all know.
And then afterwards you plug it into the bottom.
They all is.
The bottom equation.
That's just like, I guess that's the easiest class to know or something. I mean, it's they just.
Are y'all good on this second one?
They just throw
Can
the
I joke that I didn't get?
Oh, you made a joke that I didn't get. I made a joke that you
Was that an actual joke or did you just make it up?
Ooh.
What do you mean?
Like, is that like a long?
football coach was coming from
No, that's like, that's a dream.
Coaching-
I was
coaching,
asking.
teaching's
Like,
pretty
is that a
cool.
joke like that used to laugh?
No.
You just made it up right now?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
All right, I'm coming around. If you have questions, let me know. This one is a
Oh, we
little
did
different
get
than our
right
other ones.
and you factor a 5x out.
How many solutions will there be?
Two, three.
Why do we say 2?
Because it's two parabolas. But it could be
There's
zero.
It's not 2 parabolas. If you look at the picture,
Wait.
it's actually a circle with a
Circle.
line through it.
Line, so it's two.
So two square, two.
I was in.
Two squares can make a circle.
I didn't even look at the picture.
Yeah, 2 squared. Y and x
No
are both
parabolas.
squared. That's actually a circle. It's an equation for a circle, right?
Can you just look at the graph?
Is one of those solutions 0 or not?
Well, 0, comma,
It is?
negative.
Oh,
Negative
one of the-
five.
You could look at the picture, absolutely. But just so that we know how to do it algebraically too, just show it algebraically. But you could kind of check it with that.
There won't always be
foil this. What's it?
0, comma, negative something.
You got to, yep, you got to foil this part.
Oh.
Gosh,
We're starting to X.
You get on foil
Right here. I got it. I got it right.
Sweet. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and continue this because I know we've got like 1 minute left. When we distribute this, right, it should be plus 25 minus 10x minus 10x plus 4x squared equals 25. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get everything to one side.
Text your mom.
And so what would happen is when I subtract 25, this would equal 0. And so these would cancel, giving me x squared plus 4x squared is 5x squared minus 20x equals 0. Can I factor this?
Maybe on it.
Yeah, what can I take out of this?
4 or no?
5 and 5x, good. And then what's left over? You said it, Shay. This would be x minus 4.
Or 4, yeah.
And so what are the two solutions when we set equal to 0?
5x.
This would be 4. And this one would be, it's actually 0.
Oh, because it's okay.
We set it each equal to 0, and then there you go. Cool. Hey, Roll, I hope you have a good day, dude. I enjoyed seeing you, dude. Enjoyed seeing you. Hey, have a great day, y'all. If you had some questions on that, you could just kind of hang out and we'll kind of talk through.
It's an about.
Other than that, get out of here. See y'all.
I think
Jeffrey, what do you think?
It's good.
Do you know how many times?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Harrison, did you get that?
1,000.
Yeah, I started it.
Okay. Did you get how you distributed here?
Last night.
Yeah,
You
I got that.
Dude, you should be like,
Cool.
if you really
Hey,
feel
good luck
like,
this
you
week.
should
Good
be like,
My game plan is yes. Actually, put a little note here. I got to get tickets
That's what
because I know it's
have you seen it?
selling fast, right?
Yeah.
How many shows Saturday?
Yeah, if you really feel like, if you're like,
We both took
"Nah,
big
just-
losses this weekend.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It was. I felt like ours was a little bit more unexpected.
That was you?
No, you're right. You're right. Well, no, not unexpected. Yours was a little bit more. Like you probably watched the entire game,
I did.
but like for me, I did not.
Yeah, you're right.
Like your team actually showed up. Texas A&M's just that good.
No.
Texas A&M is good.
It was that one receiver that was 6'6". Kept on whooping up on them. They couldn't stop him. It was so annoying.
I'm sorry about that.
And it should have never gone into overtime in the first place. So
I hear you.
Good shit.
See you, man. Yeah.
So I don't know if Coachy told you, but I just had enough. That's what I was
About that, man. I heard about that. Hey, I appreciate you telling me. I know, for me, selfishly, because I've had you since 8th grade.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I'm like, oh, damn it. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing I told y'all earlier. Still kind of in situations. So.
100%. I appreciate you.